At this time last year, Joe Biden's approval rating amongst black voters was 87%. Fast forward 1 year later, and now it's 62%. Now, as Biden's approval rating amongst black voters has fallen like a brick out of the sky, the Democrats have tried everything to dupe black Americans into voting blue no matter who. And I say dupe black Americans because they're not offering up any transformative concrete legislation to address the specific needs of the black community exclusively like the way they do for every other group. No. They've been offering up a whole lot of nonsensical symbolic legislation like passing a hair discrimination bill, as well as producing performative art pieces to emotionally trigger black Americans by exploiting the pain of their past in order to get them to vote out of fear. The most recent example of that being Charles Booker's campaign ad, in which he wore a noose around his neck the entire ad until the very end. This foolishness has been ongoing pretty much since the moment Biden stepped into office, but surprisingly, it appears that for once, black Americans are not going for it. Maybe for the first time, black Americans will finally stand up to the Democrats and say no transformative concrete legislation that's exclusively for black Americans, no vote. And it appears that the Democrats are a little concerned because now they're pulling out the big guns. Oh yes, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party has called on JayZ to assemble the Vote Blue No Matter Who Summit, officially called the UJC Summit Inaugural Social Justice Convention. The United Justice Coalition will host a social justice summit this summer in New York City during the midterm elections. The coalition, assembled by Team Roc, which is the social justice arm of JayZ's Roc Nation record label, will bring together activists, celebrities, and relatives of police brutality victims to address racial justice and policy issues on July 23rd, Yahoo News reported. Now let's move over to the official UJC Summit website to dive a little deeper into what this is all about. The UJC Summit Inaugural Social Justice Convention will bring together leaders, experts, and advocates who are committed to working together in the spirit of social and racial justice to enact change in the following areas: families impacted by police violence, laws, policies, voter registration, education, civic action, and different spheres of influence, including media, entertainment, and technology. The event will feature keynote speakers, panels, discussions, town halls, social justice organizations, networking opportunities, and more. The United Justice Coalition is a charitable organization that works across disciplines to raise awareness around key social justice issues and the need for criminal justice reform. Now, here's the good part. The group is made up of an esteemed array of expert advisors that come together to strategically share resources, information, and ideas to address systemic injustice across America and unify communities. Now let's take a look at this esteemed array of expert advisors. We've got Charlemagne, Benjamin Crump, Michael Eric Dyson, Van Jones, Gail King, Myson, Tamika Mallory, Lee Merritt, and of course, the Vote Blue No Matter Who gang would not be officially complete without Angela Rye. The UJC is committed to amplifying critical issues, leveraging support for on-the-ground advocacy and social justice organizations, and advancing just legislation and policies. Now, of course, when they're talking about advancing just legislation and policies, they're not talking about reparations or any type of legislation that would seriously close the racial wealth gap between black and white Americans. And they're definitely not pushing the line for an anti-black hate crime bill either. So what type of legislation and policies are they fighting for? Well, to find that out, we have to visit the Our Work page of their site. And when you get here, you'll see that they are working on nothing but criminal justice reform measures. Now, as I've stated in the past, the reason everybody loves playing the criminal justice reform game is because it's a game that you can play forever. From disparities in prison sentencing to situations like what happened to George Floyd, as long as the racial wealth gap remains as large as it is, then those situations will continue to persist. I believe it was the Black Authority who I heard say this once. And if I'm not mistaken, he stated, "They hate us because we're black, but they mistreat us because we're poor." End quote. All of these situations surrounding criminal justice reform and police brutality, if we're being honest, this stuff only happens to poor black Americans, which is a large percentage of us, a very, very large percentage of us. And very rarely do you see this stuff happening to middle and upper class Black Americans. It's the poor Black Americans that this happens to, and everybody knows that. So as long as the majority of Black Americans remain at the bottom of the economic totem pole, then the need for criminal justice reform and police reform will always exist. And by its perpetual existence, the cries for criminal justice reform and police reform is now an infinite well of tears that the Democrats and their minions can always pull from in order to play on your pain for votes. But once you close the racial wealth gap between Black and white Americans, then it's game over, because all of these issues within Black society will begin to self-correct itself. Why do you think they're always pushing this nonsensical message on us about how the issues within Black society are far too deep and complex for money to solve? I've never seen so much effort put into downplaying money when it comes to the issues plaguing the Black community. You can rest assured that on the day of the summit, July 23rd, there will be no serious conversations about pushing legislation that will close the racial wealth gap, let alone reparations. These topics may get a courtesy mention, but you will not hear or see serious conversation around how to push this type of legislation through. And one last thing, a lot of these advisors are millionaires, and if they're not millionaires, they're connected to millionaires like Jay-Z, who apparently is a billionaire. Now, with all that being said, isn't it amazing how these people never build any institutions within the Black communities that they say they love so much? Realtors are coming from overseas, buying up whole neighborhoods and cities like Detroit, but you'll never see the Black elite class of our society attempting to do the same thing. Forget about a neighborhood, you won't even see them buy a building. Now, in closing, let this sit on your mind for a moment. You have Black elites like Jay-Z who are out here buying whole islands, multiple islands, but then will turn around and make a song rapping about gentrification. Seriously. How are you out here buying islands, $2 million watches, $10 million paintings just to turn around and rap about gentrification? If that isn't a slap in the face to Black America, I don't know what is. And now these are the same people holding a summit in an attempt to convince Black voters to go out and vote for politicians that haven't agreed to do anything for the Black community. So essentially, you're just voting just to vote. And by the looks of things, that hasn't worked yet. But hey, I guess it wouldn't hurt to give it another try, right? Anyways, with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those who have issues with joining Patreon, you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you have not already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.